He's really energetic.
Really coffeeed up there.
There's a lot of caffeine.
He does look it.
But look, he's you know, it was after the 4-1 win in Europe, but obviously referring to the defeat by Crystal Palace at the weekend. It just, I don't know what to think about City this weekend. Tell me, what should I think about City?
Well, we know that City are capable of just steamrolling teams, but what I'm seeing at the moment with City, and why probably went for Ronaldo and Harry Kane, Ronaldo, whichever order, is because they have moments like we saw against Crystal Palace where they need that person who can open the game up. You know, we know that Grealish and, you know, we know that Mahrez, but they need that person, like Harry Kane, when it's not going right, like Ronaldo, we're seeing at Man United, when it's not going right, there's someone that bursts the game open, scores the goal, and then they're able to then get into their game. But what we're seeing now with City is that they're not doing it. They're not actually doing that. Nobody, you have to say, at City at the moment is doing enough, but they're good enough. You look at De Bruyne, I don't think he's had an assist yet this season. You know, Jack Grealish is still trying to get out of... He's still not... He's not the best player there like he was at Villa, so his numbers are down. So when it gets tight and you get a team like Palace who were brilliant against them, Patrick coached them brilliantly against them, and they broke on them. It's not like, let's just see if we could take the heat and then take a 0-0. They went at them, and that's what I think is going to happen with City, and that's why you don't know, you can get a 5-0 out of them or they can lose a game, because they haven't got that person to break a team open, and that is where you have to say the worry is for me for City.
I read an article this week, actually it was about Liverpool dropping points at home to Brighton, but I think the way that it was phrased might well apply to Manchester City as well, where, you know, the journalist said, Liverpool are very good at being brilliant, they're very good at being very good, and they're very good at being average. What they're not very good at is playing poorly. And there are teams in history, and often they're the title winners, who do that, who just have something. Manchester United arguably have it in Cristiano Ronaldo, but that performance against Crystal Palace where they create but can't finish.
Yeah, I think that's an obvious. They don't have an Aguero back in the day or Kane or whatever. Pep Guardiola knows that. Everybody knows that. They play a system where, and you know, there's a DNA with Pep that they're gonna succeed. They're gonna be around it because the system protects everyone when they're not playing very well. Fine, but they need that something. When you look at United, they're not doing nothing like what City's doing, but they have a main man that knows how to put the ball in the net. And at City, I think that that's an obvious thing for us to talk about, that they need a striker. They need a striker, but I think that they're good enough to... If we're looking at City now and questioning, you know, the Palace game, and maybe they're not firing on all cylinders, but they're still in and around it. Imagine last season, you know, the second half of last season, they were so strong. If they can do that again coming into January out of Christmas and really push on, I know we've got a strong league this year, which is exciting, but City will be there because they just play. It's just the style. They're always going to get more wins and more good performances than they're not.
But the thing with them, Ash, Darren, is that while you've got a City in this kind of situation, we saw them get beaten against Palace. Other teams, they look at that bully in the playground and say, right, I'm going to take him on as well now. I'm going to have a go at City. And why City are struggling is because, like I said, they haven't got that person to be able to score the goal, settle them down, and then they start doing their stuff. That is what they were trying to do with Kane or Ronaldo. It hasn't happened. And now I think that they're a team. We know how good they are, Ash. We know what they're capable of, Daz. But the fact is that teams are saying, well, let's have a go, man. Let's see how we go with them, because they can be beaten like Palace showed.
But also, as you said, there's that warning in the background, which is the way that they finished seasons, particularly last time around.
There's a jeopardy.
When you know, at this stage of last season, almost exactly at this stage of last season, actually, there was speculation about, is Pep going to sign his contract? Yeah. Oh, Manchester United and Manchester City and Pep Guardiola going to part company? Is this... This is where we were at this stage last season, and then it was statement win after statement win from then on to the end of the season. From this perspective, we go into this game with these two sides only separated by 3 points. If Manchester United win, they go level with City. Is the difference in perception down to what Ashley was saying, which is that you look at City's plan, you look at their players and you think they're set up. to get consistently good results with occasional blips. Whereas with Manchester United, it looks a little more chaotic with a reliance on Ronaldo. Is that oversimplifying it?
No, I think you got it spot on. I think I'll get my coat again.
It wasn't really a question, was it?
He wants to leave. He wants to leave.
Do you know, I think about the Wales team that Ash played in, where Gareth Bale was your point man, and then he was, bagging big goals, particularly in the Euros, for example. But the difference between that team and the United is that every other team with a team worked, grafted. You guys grafted in defence, the midfield, work hard to support Bale. I look at United, and you could say Cavani works hard, does his best to link play, but I don't see anyone else doing their jobs. Maybe you could say De Gea does his job, the defence doesn't do their jobs. And so this is where the stats, lies, damn lies and statistics, the stats just completely flatter United, because I told you about that stat about 2 clean sheets in the last 22, but also I think they've won 3 of their last 8 games. I mean, so they are an easy team to play against. I think the way that City like to keep the ball and the pace that they have still in their attack will allow them to hurt United. I think the away team has won in 8 of the last 11 meetings. So the stats have already just said that they're lies, and then I'm going to use them. But I just look at City as a team, and even without the key players that they normally have, they are still too strong for United. I see this as being another victory that will expose the chasm between the two teams, and another victory that will expose the idea that Solskjaer was that keeping faith with Solskjaer was a better fit than going for somebody who could get those players in defence, in midfield, all over the pitch to do their jobs.
But you know what annoys me? It annoys me because I don't understand how this can happen in the Premier League, especially. As you mentioned the Wales team, for example, or the team that I played in for Swansea. But you want to take it any level. You look at Manchester City now, you look at Liverpool, you look at their managers. Now, we all know exactly what City are going to do this weekend. We know what Liverpool are going to do, and we know what Chelsea are going to do. It's unacceptable for me, for a team or a manager, to not have a complete identity, to set in place an identity for that club. And I don't see that with Manchester. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what they're going to do against City. I don't know what they're trying to do, what the plan is. It seems to change all the time. I don't know if he knows, but you've been there long enough now to say, we should be saying, well, United are a counter-attacking team, a possession-based team, or whatever it is. But I don't know what it is, and I don't think it's okay if you're a top-level manager, a top-level team, for us to be, people in the pubs everywhere, whatever, saying, well, I don't really know what they're trying to do. You work with them every day. Implement a star so you can fall back on that star when things aren't going
That's so
too well.
important. I mean, people say Ollie needs time. He's had over 1,000 days in charge. 3 years he's had in charge of that football team. To not know what their identity is remarkable.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't think he can answer that. That it's not like we are saying we don't know. I've never heard him say, this is what we do.
But the thing is, you look at Man United, and especially when they're going to play the 3 at the back with the wing backs. When you're talking about chasing down Jadon Sancho for a couple of years, and then you get Jadon Sancho, and Jadon Sancho is not playing, right? So you think to yourself, you're playing with wing backs, so why are you buying wingers, somebody who can play on the wing? Rashford, you got Luke Shaw. So if you're playing with wing backs, they're the ones that give you the width. What are you doing buying Sancho, having Greenwood, having Rashford? And this is exactly what you're saying, Ashley. He should know what he wants from this team, because, Man United know that they needed more from their right-hand side for a few years now. Everything was coming from the left. They buy Jadon Sancho, can't make the team.
So can I ask a question then? And this is not, are Manchester United better without Ronaldo in the team? Because clearly he gets them out of trouble so much that he's worth his weight in gold to them in terms of the results. But do you see take Ronaldo out of that Manchester United team, do you then see something that is a bit clearer about where Solskjaer wants to go with Manchester United in terms of the signings, in terms of the players that he's brought into the club. Is that clearer that way?
No, it's not clearer that way because...
So it's not that the Ronaldo signing has sort of derailed a project that was...
No, I think the Ronaldo signing and the fact that he saved them so many times actually is papering over cracks. It's papering over cracks because if Ronaldo wasn't there, then you just wouldn't have that person to dig them out. So it probably would be worse. They'd probably be losing those games.
But what I mean is when you're looking for an identity, an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer team, no, I'm not suggesting that you take I'm not suggesting that you take Cristiano Ronaldo out of it, or that he's not been fantastic for them. But what I'm asking is, Gunnar Solskjaer wants to do, and then Ronaldo thrown in as a surprise, like a bonus into the mix. But if you take him out of it and you look at the team he's trying to build, is that clearer? Do you understand what he wants?
No.
Even that way? Okay.
Because last season, they had a decent season, but I still didn't. I was saying the same things. I'm not sure what... It's almost like... he's the type of manager where he goes, I've got Pogba, I've got Cavani, I've got Rashford and Greenwood, and I'm going to put my best players on the pitch and just hope that they're going to do something. I don't know if they're being coached in one style or maybe a plan A and a plan B if that's not working.
Exactly.
So if you take Ronaldo out of it, or put Ronaldo in it,
it's still chaotic because, like you said there, with the players that he can put up front, and then he'll put Fred and McTominay in front of whether it's the back three or whatever, and then you see they get stretched. They're in advance of the ball. So when you talk about, like actually rightly saying that, I don't know what kind of coaching they're doing because I remember when we were doing the coaching, we moved as a team. I knew what we were doing. So when you watch Man United, you see Fred over there, you see McTominay over here, and the space is down the middle. So you think to yourself, are you working on this? Or are you just putting them in, putting two people in front so as you could protect it because you don't trust your centre halves, and then you're hoping that the front guys will come up with something, which is happening right now. They're hoping. How can you have Pogba, 7 assists already this season? Greenwood, what has Greenwood done? The way he's played up to this point in the season to not be in the team. Sancho's just like, he can't even, let's not even mention poor Donny van der Beek. You know what I mean? You think to yourself, the players that he has, by now, like Darren's saying, 3 years, there should be a strategy and a system, everything in play for them to play different systems. Not just, we don't know what ones they've got. They should be playing different systems with the players they've got.
It's just interesting, and also in terms of what they do, and we know that they've tried out a few different things. The 3-5-2 seemed to work against Tottenham, even though they didn't put up much opposition, and it was not.
I'd love to see them. I'd love to see that Man United team play against the Conte team in a couple of weeks.
But what we are going to see them play against is the Manchester City team, the Pep Guardiola Manchester City team. So is that something that they can get joy from against City, going in that formation with that approach? If they decide to do what they did against Liverpool and suddenly they're a pressing team, that's not going to work.
Yeah, but that's crazy.
But does the way that they approached it against Tottenham help them against Manchester City? Does it give them a better chance?
Well, the way they closed Tottenham down, they obviously worked on that for that particular time, and Tottenham are, at the moment, they're right for the picking in respects of not giving them time on the ball. There's no real midfield control from Tottenham. We didn't know what Tottenham were going. Harry Kane was all over the place. It was a perfect team for them to play. Manchester City are comfortable. If Man United come at them like I saw them doing it, in like really closing them down quick, they'll pass around them. Before the night, bam, they're through them. And then it's up to Manchester City, can they take the chance? Because if they could take the chance, then Man United could have a Liverpool on their hands. Simply because if they're not closing down organised, with not just people going in and not leaving people behind, if they don't go organised, they are going to get the same thing what happened to them against Liverpool.
What's been really interesting, and maybe we can learn more from both teams' performances in Europe, actually, rather than their last Premier League outings, and Manchester United getting that 2-2 draw against Atalanta, City with a 4-1 win against Club Brugge. But what was really interesting when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was asked before that game about team selection, he was saying he was very almost defensive, saying it's not about the system, this is about the players working hard in whatever we choose to do, and that's what's going to make the difference.
Yeah, well, we've heard that.
Yeah,
If you hear a manager say it's not about the system, it's about the players. That's him straight away saying it's their fault, in my opinion, because it is about the system and it's about the players. But you take the responsibility. You're the one that sets the system out. As soon as I hear a manager saying, we can all talk about that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about your formation and your style of play because we can't see it. So for him to say that straight away says to me, I'm not really sure what this... I can't... Because he can't come out and say, I'll tell you exactly what... I'm going to tell you exactly what... A manager saying, we can all talk about that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about your formation and your style of play because we can't see it. So for him to say that straight away says to me, I'm not really sure what this... I can't... Because he can't come out and say, I'll tell you exactly what I'm trying to do. Let me tell you exactly what... If you ask Pep, well, what you're trying to do? He'd break it all down for you. I'm not sure, Ollie. I'd love to know what it is at the minute that they're trying to do.
But it's like you said at the start about not knowing, right? So the system, what you have to, with players, no matter how good you are, you want to know, Kels. You want to know, what should I do, boss? And then when you get in the system, then your levels. It's up to you to play well in the system. You can't say you want players to play well, you're not worried about the system, because then you're literally promoting individuals. So when you come off as a player, you could say, yeah, but I played well as an individual. I played well in the system. I played well as an individual. What about the team? What about the system? So if everybody is worried about their own individual performance rather than the team as a whole because they're playing to the system, this is exactly why Man United are probably in the situation they're in. Even though we're talking, like we're saying, they're 2 points off of... Three points off of Man City. But at the same time, it's because they've got Ronaldo.
Yeah, so then it is about individuals.
It's about individuals. It's about individuals, but individuals, again, you do not want to leave a situation where a player can walk in the dressing room and say, well, I did my job. You don't want that. You want in the system, you can say, yeah, I did my job, and he say, yeah, I did my job, because it works in the system. But if you're just saying, I'm not bothered about the system, I'm worried about individuals, individuals will finish you because they say, well, I thought Ronaldo could come in and say, I scored 2 goals.
To be fair to what he was saying was, I need the players to work hard. He was talking about work ethic from the players within whatever it was that he gave them. Yeah,
but again, players working hard at this level, especially at a club of that stature, is a given. You don't
that was
need...
Chris Wilder's quote at Sheffield United, wasn't it? Somebody said, well, I know you lost, but the players worked hard. And he went...
That's what you do.
The minimum.
You're working hard in training every day. Managers coming out. I think Graham Taylor was the first one saying, when I remember he got us round in the circle, everybody asked, how do you think you done? Well, I worked hard. He said, everybody, stop saying I worked hard. That's what you should be doing. And it's true. That's a given in the game. What you need to be doing is working to the system the manager wants and playing the best you can in the system.
But I think it's difficult as a player. I've experienced it before, like Ronald Koeman, who I loved and really got on well with. I could only presume, because he's played with so many good players, when I got to Everton from Swansea, where we had a clear system for 10 years, I was like, what are we doing? So it was like, his attitude was like, I've bought you as a good player, you know what to do. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but now I'm playing next to a new centre-half partner, Phil Jagielka, and he likes to do stuff, or he's been doing things different. So I'm not right or wrong, and he's not right or wrong, but we need you to say, this is how we're doing it here.
Yeah.
So Ronald Koeman was very much like, you're all good players.
Get on with it.
And so we'd either win big or we'd get smashed, because it was however it...
I expect that's happening with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Manchester United. Does it look as if, because he's played with fantastic players in his time at Manchester United, he's come into the dressing room and he's saying, you're all brilliant. Look at we all talk about the talent in that Manchester United squad, and he's saying, why can't, if I do put my best players out, why can't you work out?
Yeah, I think so, but I don't. Me personally, I wouldn't like to leave it to chance if I was a manager like that. But I do think some managers, as I say, well, like, look at, if you take the players before, when the team sheets come out, my team's better than yours, so we'll win today. But that sometimes doesn't work like that. If that system's stronger than your individuals on that day, and you get a couple that aren't performing high, then you end up getting beat.
Do you think then that the midweek European games, the draw for Man United, the win for Manchester City, tell us more than their Premier League outings did last weekend?
No, I think that for City, yes. For Manchester United, no. I think Man United are on a consistent level of mediocrity at the moment, and I think it's because they're rudderless. I think the players are not empowered. Everything that the chaps have said, I don't need to repeat. I think as far as City are concerned, what it does tell us is that he's rested players in readiness for this game. Sterling's on the score sheet again, which must worry United. I think there'll be a lot of pace in that forward line, and their ability to get amongst the goals on Wednesday night will be instructive and a warning almost for United. And what it will tell us is that United will line up with this 3-5-2 formation, which for me almost is a heresy when you think about the United sides that we've grown up on. Attacking from the wide areas, playing with a 4-2 players up front. It will just be fascinating at Old Trafford to see a Manchester United side set up with all of the good individual players they have set up to try and contain the opposition.
And with no Varane, I think.
No Varane.
Yeah,
Varane, who's obviously in the middle of that three, and he's probably the most calming element of that defence. So now it's Maguire and did they do a 4? Did they do the 3? Bailey's?
And in the wider picture as well, for me, it just says to me that United are wedded to this idea that the person who takes charge has to be has to be a guy in the United mold. You have to get the club. And my worry is that they're almost a little bit like Liverpool in the mid-90s when they had the kind of boot room thing. We got to keep maintaining the boot. And eventually they couldn't do it anymore. And it was when Houllier came in and Houllier managed to change things and they won the treble in 2001 and they started to move away from that. But United are still knee-deep in that. And the problem is that they are indulging egos instead of fashioning a team and getting tough on players who are not doing their jobs.
From what you've all said, and I know you were saying Manchester United could find themselves on the wrong end of a scoreline like the one against Liverpool when they come up against Manchester City on Saturday. The worry for them is that they've had a brief respite, that hopes have been raised very slightly by the result against Tottenham, by the way that Ronaldo dug them out of trouble against Atalanta. This could be crushing.
Because what will happen is that what we'll see is that City, they'll play how they play out from the back. You know what I mean? They'll try and get people inverted, they'll try and get people around the side, they'll try and get into those little holes just on the 18-yard box where they get the ball, cut it back in. We know that they're going to do that. And Man United, yes, they may be able to stop that for a bit, and when the game starts, because it's a derby, it might be a bit frantic. And when it calms down, that's when the Man United players say, right, City are sitting, now they've got the ball, they're written in there, and like, what are we doing? How are we meant to stop them? And then you have to hope that City haven't got somebody like on Mo Salah form. Well, to be honest, no one's on Mo Salah form, but they're going to have to hope that there's no one who's going to finish those chances as clinically as Liverpool did. Now, like I say, you go back to someone like Kevin De Bruyne, who's had no assists yet this season, because he hasn't got that front man who he can connect with, so he knows he could play those balls into. And this is why you can see where the Kane or Ronaldo made sense. Because you can't tell me if Kane or Ronaldo was in that team, one of those was in that team, Kevin De Bruyne wouldn't have assists by now.
Do you mind if I ask a quick question? When you guys, as the quite vocal individuals in your dressing rooms, at what point does somebody or do you say to Solskjaer, this isn't working, we need something better?
That's that you say, you don't, that's not the kind of things that, you have a meeting, you call that meeting, and then the manager's in there, and then you do the talk in the meeting rather than somebody directly calling him out because that's disrespectful. It kills him in front of the rest of the lads. So the meeting's called and you're hoping that everyone's in there and it's a Chatham House, man. Everybody can say whatever.
Does somebody say, I don't think this is working? And the manager says, well, can everyone who agrees with him put their hands up and they all
No, what will happen is...
Like that's Ted Lasso, isn't it?
What will happen is that you go in there and it's one of those situations. I don't know if you've been in it, Ash.
There's been a few, yeah.
I've been in a couple, you know what I mean? And what happens is that, like, whether it's Tony or whether it's George Graham or someone, they say, right, just say what you're saying. And then people just start talking. And that is when people say they need to have that talk. But like for me, I've never been in a dressing room. I've been in dressing rooms where we've gone into those meetings and they've absolutely hammered into the manager, like John Monco at West Ham and stuff like that, where it turns into, like, I couldn't stop laughing. It was so disrespectful in there. But like in respects of Arsenal, when you had one, it's very it's very good. It's very uplifting afterwards. But we come up, we know what system we're playing. They could go in there and have as many meetings they want. They come back out with all the will in the world and all the verve and all the gusto to, yeah, come on, And you go out there with no system. Man City just pass around you, bam, you're back to square one.
You imagine those Manchester United players, that dressing room, the big names, the star quality that's in there, all sitting around having that meeting. You can imagine there's quite a few forceful voices in there, that there's little factions, I would imagine, they go around gathering support for their point.
Yeah, which is not good. This is why this meeting has to happen, because what you don't want is players getting off like that, because then what happens is you get the cliques, like, you know, you get the clique, and then you got that faction, and then the manager might prefer them over there, and he's not so keen on these guys, or these guys might be, they're the top guys who play. They don't really care about the manager. And then the manager's got his own guys over there who know that these guys don't care about the manager. They're not together because they don't like them, because they think, you lot ain't playing well enough. We're really good, and this manager's not good enough. I don't know. I'm not trying to say that Ronaldo and Bruno Fernandes and Pogba are doing that.
Just for confirmation, we're talking about a dressing room of adults here.
Yes, but when you get into this kind of situation, especially at a club of that size, with the players involved, it can get really intense.
And it's a really good point, because if you continue the perfect storm, then what you do have is journalists on my side of the sporting industry who then say they identify that there are problems. And so they'll hit up the agents or players that they know, and then they'll start to get information on what is the extent of the problem. And people who are neutrals on the outside, they'll interpret it as leaks. It's not so much leaks, it's journalists doing their jobs and saying, look, we can see there's a problem. How bad is it? And then when a player says, well, I don't want to say anything, but I don't know what the system is, then suddenly you have an atmosphere and a culture around the club that is just toxic, which you don't get at clubs where players know their jobs.
Yes.
And in that position, Manchester United welcome Manchester City to Old Trafford for the Manchester Derby this weekend. It only gets easier for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Coming up, though...